Hello, everybody. Welcome to World Politics on the Pod TV network. And for those people joining in LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, or Roku, or Amazon, we want to welcome to our show. And of course, on the Pod TV network, we do have our own network channel that's devoted to politics. And with that, we're going to bring in one of our political commentators who used to be a writer for Jimmy Kimmel Live in Los Angeles, aka the West Coast, left coast. Some people say it's the best coast. And that is Rick Rosner. Rick Rosner, welcome to the World Politics Show, which of course we discuss politics. And I think the topic that we have right now that's hitting everybody's mind is the rematch between a guy named Donald Trump and another one called Joe Biden.
Right. Okay. And there's a big thing going on. Well, not a big thing. The way our politics works, we make a big thing out of little things. And today in Congress, they're holding hearings with Robert Hur, the special prosecutor, who wrote the report saying we can't prosecute Joe Biden for holding on to documents because he's a sweet old man with a bad memory.
Right.
And today they released the transcripts, 300 pages of the interview with Biden, which shows that at least you're a liberal, you see that Hur badly exaggerated about the forgetfulness, that his son's death date, Beau died, and Hur said that Biden couldn't even remember when he died. And if you look at the transcript, Biden says, yeah, he died May 30th. And before Biden can say something further, one of the other lawyers in the room says 2015, and Biden says 2015. So that's, so.
I got something for Sasha that he will love, and all along those lines. One is, Sasha, you must be a major predictor because you called it the Trump party, the Republican parties, and apparently the RNC had a major shakeup, and new Trump leadership has slashed dozens of the Republican jobs that were there. So they slashed the staff at committees, and they're even calling it a bloodbath. And so it does look like he has definitely taken over the party, and you were sometimes back and everything. So definitely they're cutting staff, but they're also putting in a lot of their lieutenants in charge of the Republican National Committee. So
yeah, they fired 60 people. The co-head of the RNC now is Laura Trump, Trump's daughter-in-law, who has said flat out that they will be spending RNC money on Trump's legal defenses. So if you're a Democrat like me, you got to kind of love it because it doesn't look good for the Republicans.
And remember, when they need money for election, not just the president, and all different levels, senators, the House representatives, the governors, there are all kinds of elections, and they have no money. So obviously the next trip, they have to send somebody to Putin and ask for support. And there is another $500 million bonds coming in less than 2 weeks' time. So bravo, Trump, get going.
Also, another Republican congressman announced he's leaving the House of Representatives. Ken Buck of Colorado says he's leaving in 10 days, which will mean that they've got 218 Republicans in the House now, which out of 435 is the bare minimum to have a majority.
Yeah, and also we don't want to forget the Democrats with Jimenez, I believe, trying to keep his little butt out of jail.
Bob Menendez, as dirty as they come. Yeah,
as dirty as they come, and he's of course a Democrat. And we can't forget that Joe Biden once again has produced a budget that is late once again, and his budget creates huge deficits once again. We don't want to forget that, and we definitely don't want to forget that Joe Biden is trying to buy votes by telling people their loans are forgiven, which is, as one commentator said, is the biggest assets on the balance sheet. So, and then we don't want to forget that Joe ignores Medicare and Social Security.
Well, hold on a second, but let's not forget that Joe and Kamala are coming to North Carolina actually 2 weeks from today.
We're gonna have him on the
we got to
TV.
figure out where he's going to be coming to. Maybe we'll try to get him on Pod TV because the both of them are coming on the 26th, which would be 2 weeks from today. I've yet to find out where they will be coming, whether it'll be Mecklenburg, one of our rural towns, or whether it'll be around the Triangle. But they are both coming for a campaign stop on the 26th. So this is definitely a battleground state. And like I said before, I'm still trying to figure out who voted for Mark Robinson, because apparently he's got some votes, but even though he keeps saying some crazy things, and he continues to say some crazy things, but apparently he's got the endorsement of Mr. Trump. So we'll find out.
I saw him. John Oliver did 10 minutes on him, and he's an interest. Like, not only does he say interesting, crazy stuff, he looks like a supersized Boss Hogg from the Dukes of Hazzard. He looks like he's about, I don't know what, 6 foot, 300 pounds, just a behemoth of a man saying just the most lunatic stuff. And he admits apparently that his career started with him going online and saying crazy stuff on purpose because it got him more clicks.
Yeah, got him more clicks. And speaking of more clicks and everything, apparently a person that got in all kinds of trouble and got in trouble with various political people, both in the Democratic and the Republican Party and everything. And her cohort, I think, has gone from this planet and is no longer living with us. But apparently Ghislaine Maxwell is seeking to overturn her sex trafficking conviction. So, she was one of the people that was involved with Jeff Epstein, and she was facing a 20-year prison term. But apparently she's saying, hey, I don't need to be serving this term, so y'all need to overturn my conviction for grooming and abusing girls for the late sex trafficker, Jeffrey Epstein. And like I said, there's a number of people in the kind of power structure, whether they be politicians or entertainers, that were spending a lot of time on that island and all in that space. But apparently she's saying, I'm not guilty, so y'all need to overturn my conviction. So maybe she's learning from Mr. Trump.
Well, I mean, Peterson is asking for his conviction to be overturned, but generally, when you have a jury decide the case, unless you have like overwhelming new evidence, they go nowhere with that stuff, Mark. They're gonna find out the stone cold facts of the law will keep their butts in jail for a long time. May make them feel good that they're doing this, but other than that, I don't see her going anywhere except hope she enjoys her time in the big house.
She has all the time in the world, but I've seen the Epstein documentaries, and they've got a mountain of evidence.
Yeah, right. The mountain of evidence not in her favor. So Maxwell is, I don't think she's going to see the light of day, and I don't think this Peterson guy is going to go anywhere too. It makes good press, but other than that, it's a complete waste of time. Now the real question is, your friend Donald, is he going to spend any time in the big house? I mean, he's been there once, only to be arraigned, but he's got all these indictments floating around out there. All they need is one of them to stick. Is he going to be like Eugene Debs? I guess he was the last one to run for president in the big house. What are your thoughts on that? Rick, you're shaking your head. Do you think that?
No, I was shaking my head. Eugene Debs was a big-time socialist 100 years ago, headed the Wobblies, which I think is slang for workers of the world. He got locked up for activism, not for fraud and
insurrection.
Yes, riots. But he got a big chunk of the vote. I don't know how big, but yeah, he was a viable third-party candidate from prison.
Right.
The last time we had a viable third-party candidate was Ross Perot got 19% of the vote, which made it possible for Bill Clinton to win the presidency with, I think, 42% of the vote.
Yeah, you don't need a majority; you just need a plurality.
Well, you need a majority of the electoral votes.
You have to win the electoral college, which is what obviously the Donald's strategy is to win the electoral college, because all he has to do is flip a couple states like Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and next year this time everybody's going to be saluting The Donald, baby, the Donald. So I think all of the liberals are just going to have to get used to sucking up
Well,
to
speaking
Donald
of
once again
saluting
for
the
4
Donald
years.
and everything, Donald has come up with a new nickname, and you're gonna love this because he has had the audacity, and I can't wait to hear what Kim's got to say about this because he oftentimes uses the term "Crooked Joe Biden," but his latest moniker, and he put it out on his Truth Social, is he is going by the nickname of Honest Don. So he's claiming that he is very honest.
Really?
That is literally what he has called himself. He's called himself Honest Don. He's put it out there on Truth Social and everything else. So he's saying that he is Honest Don, and he is actually put that out there. So what is our thoughts around this? The fact that the man he has all kinds of lies going on, but he has called himself Honest Don.
Excuse me.
When he was president, the Washington Post counted how many lies he told a day, and over the course of his presidency, it was 30,000. Which I've tweeted a bunch of times is more than every other president combined. I don't know if that's true, but I'm saying it's true. And in his last year as president, he averaged 30 public lies or misstatements every single day. So,
But Joe misrepresentation of fact. Hey, fact is
Honest
what-
Joe, right?
Speaking
Honest
of
Joe,
representation, we got
honest
Steve here. He's a
I
very
don't think Steve
honest
was on,
guy
but
and
apparently
everything.
Mark has arranged for a meeting with you and Kamala Harris on March 26th. So are you going to be there, Steve?
We don't
We'll send the
know where
cameraman.
we don't know where in the state she's going to be.
Once again. gee.
I bet you she'll be outside of the triangle because she's come to the triangle so much. She'll probably go. I don't know. We'll see where she goes, but I
You
bet
think in
she'll
Charlotte, or you think in Wilmington, or you think in rural North
I
Carolina?
think she'll have to go to the rural. They're going to have to start spending more time in the rural areas of the state. So I think that that's probably what they're going to have to do. But we'll see. We'll see if we can get in. But yeah. I mean, I wanted to just say hi to everybody today, and I think the main thing right now is everyone's still talking about Joe Biden's State of the Union. Really exciting performance by the president, and he just offered his $3.7 trillion budget. The budget, surprisingly enough, will not raise taxes for those earning less than $400,000, and he promises, commitments on loan forgiveness, making sure that we continue to invest in affordable housing, $285 billion for that, bring on about 2 million more units. I don't think this budget's going to pass, but he's getting bold and ambitious. And meanwhile, we got to see how Mr. Trump is going to respond. The man who shall not be named.
Steve, I don't know if you saw what the conservative people have been doing. They've been attacking the State of the Union because they said Joe Biden was on drugs, on Adderall, when he was doing his State of the Union. Since you know Joe and you know Kamala Harris, does Joe Biden even take drugs? I think maybe he drank a lot of coffee, maybe, but where did they just make this up? I called him on it because I'm going, dude, if you're going to say he's on drugs, you better bring some facts. And of course, they have brought no facts to the table. And as you know, I attack both political parties equally. I'm a bipartisan hatred of both political parties. And so I smacked the Republicans on that one. I did not see Joe Biden on drugs. They're saying, well, psychiatrists looked at him on TV and my psychologist thinks he's on drugs. I think your psychologist's on drug. I don't know what. Have you seen that garbage being put out?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are just really attacking and they're scared. And I think that, Katie Britt from Alabama, I don't think did a really good job on the Republican response.
I think she might have been on drugs.
Yeah, I know.
Scarlett Johansson took care of that one.
Meanwhile, we've got the Haiti prime minister resigning, which is about another democracy in trouble. I know you probably already spoke about that. And meanwhile, something nobody's really talking about, but concerning too, I think for all of us, India, Prime Minister Modi coming in and claiming some land to build some infrastructure, and China saying that that's part of China near Tibet. And so, are we, now seeing conflict escalate between China and India, which in many ways is good for the U.S.-India relationship, because I think we need to really be partners with India. So that could be a good thing, but I don't know. I mean, it's every day that goes by, it's another day of drama on the presidential scene.
India has had a number of long-term border conflicts. Its longest one is with Pakistan, and both Pakistan and India have nukes. So if you read a lot of fiction about the near future, a lot of, if nuclear war is going to break out, it could be between India and Pakistan. And now, I don't think India would really want to get into a large scale conflict with China, but.
Yep, definitely. But Steve, I did have a question for you
but
because
they're
there's been
brothers.
a lot of conversation going on about this hearing and around the kind of thoughts, as Nick was just saying, around the ability of President Biden to think straight and all along those lines. And this was a remark that was going on with one of the hearings. And of course, there's the special counsel hearings that are going on and all along those lines. I was going to play it, and then I wanted to hear folks react to what was going on, because there was a little bit of gamemanship going on as well. But let's check this out and see what folks have got to say in this relationship.
It's consistent with legal policy and legal requirements.
And you could have chosen just to comment on the president's particular recall vis-a-vis a document or a set of documents, but you decided to go further and make a generalized statement about his memory, didn't you?
Congressman, I could have written my report theoretically in a way that omitted references to the president's memory, but that would have been an incomplete and improper report, and that it did not reflect my analysis.
You could have written,
explanation of my decision.
You could have written your report with comments about his specific recollection as to documents or a set of documents, but you chose a general pejorative reference to the president. You understood when you made that decision, didn't you, Mr. Hur, that you would ignite a political firestorm with that language, didn't you?
Congressman, politics played no part whatsoever in my investigative steps.
But you understood nevertheless,
the
didn't
words
you,
that I put in my report.
Mr. Hur, you cannot tell me you're so naive as to think your words would not have created a political firestorm. You understood that, didn't you, when you wrote those words, when you decided to include those words, when you decided to go beyond specific references to documents? You understood how they would be manipulated by my colleagues here on the GOP side of the aisle and by President Trump. You understood that, did you not?
Congressman, what I understood is the regulations that govern my conduct as special counsel. Congressman, I do not have the Trump indictment in front of me, but I need to address something that you said in your prior question. What you are suggesting is that I needed to provide a different version of my report that would be fit for public release. That is nowhere in the rules. I was to prepare a confidential report that was comprehensive and thorough of an explanation.
What is in the rules, Mr. Hur, what is in the rules is you don't gratuitously do things to prejudice the subject of an investigation when you're declining to prosecute. You don't gratuitously add language that you know will be useful in a political campaign. You were not born yesterday. You understood exactly what you were doing. It was a choice. You certainly didn't have to include that language. You could have said vis-a-vis the documents that were found at the university, the president did not recall. There is nothing more common. You know this, I know this. There is nothing more common with a witness of any age when asked about events that are years old to say, I do not recall. Indeed, they're instructed by their attorney to do that if they have any question about it. You understood that. You made a choice. That was a political choice. It was the wrong choice.
Wow.
So
Well, he's like, go ahead, Sasha Star.
They just ran shortly thereafter. They ran one of the positions of Donald Trump, where he 35 times said, "I don't know, I don't remember, and I don't recall." He said it 35 times in a row. Doesn't matter what was the question. So in case of Trump, well, yeah, no, he doesn't remember, he doesn't know. It's okay. In case of Biden, oh, he's senile, he just lost it, he doesn't have any memory anymore, and so on. This is such a horrible, horrible president. This guy, what's his name? He should have been taken to jail right during the hearing, right after the Schiff's questioning. He should have been taken right into the jail.
Schiff should be taken to jail.
Hey,
It was grandstanding.
Hey, before
if you want to talk about anybody who needs to be taken to jail, it's that dumb Democrat Schiff. Why what he's trying to do is influence the election.
Real quickly, I've got to run, guys. I'm on.
Take the attorney to jail. Take Schiff to jail.
I'm on vacation, so I've been ordered. I got to go to have dinner, but I wanted to really quickly.
Good idea.
I want to ask you. I'm doing a straw poll of all of us here. We're going to go down the line, starting with Kim, Nick, Mark, Sasha, and go back to Rick Rosner. a presidential election, Joe Biden or Donald Trump if the election were held today?
All right. So I think, as I've said a number of times, the polls overestimate Trump's chances. I'm looking at two recent polls. One has Trump at 29% approval. One has him at 46% approval. They both can't be true. And so some of the polls, I think, are contaminated with lunatics. I think that the polls underestimate the loathing a lot of people have for the Trump circus. Since 2015, Trump's approval has been pretty steady at 40%, which leaves 55-60% of the population to not like Trump. And I don't think he's done anything since the last election to make people like him more. You know, he
Right.
had insurrection. Has all these legal things. So the only question is, has Biden done enough in the past 3.5 years to keep his voters?
Kim, what do you think?
I hope that the U.S. citizens gain a brain, a conscious mind, and some courage and vote no labels and get these two monkeys out of office. These two old farts need to go find an old home and battle it out somewhere else.
But it's not good. But yeah, but I think it's.
I know
not
what you're
good.
asking, Trump or Biden. You know, I will take Biden right now because
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think that's where most people are headed. Nick, Biden or Trump? Prediction.
None of the above. I agree with Kim. I mean, the thing is, to me, they're both a scourge on America, and all you need is a third party candidate at this point in time, because you have two people that are just they're horrible.
Mark
and if
Lee-
this is the best you can do, forget even going to the polls. But if
Mark-
you have a third party candidate, then go to the polls and get that third party candidate in there.
Mark Lee, what does your gut tell you?
To get off mute. Before I answer the question, got a question for everybody else as well, and I'll throw it to you. But my gut tells me that it will be a Biden re-election, and all along those lines, I think that there is a pool of people that are diehard Trump, and they will never vote for anybody but Trump. But I think the vast majority of the independents and the undecided will break toward Biden. So I think that it'll be a Biden victory. But then again, I don't put anything past the mantles of humanity and the mantles even of people in the United States. So if Trump wins, I will not be surprised, even though I know some people that may decide to leave the country. But that being said, I think it'll be Biden's election to win. But one thing, and this is to throw it back at you, that I've been hearing, and it's not just here in the United States, but apparently there is a lot of leaders that are going more toward populism, and some people would say the far right. As a matter of fact, in the Netherlands, there is the Geert Wilders, and apparently he is a Trump-like politician, and it looks like he will be winning in that area. So it looks like there are disruptive forces on the far right. We are world politics, not just here, but nationally and in international.
We're seeing that. We're seeing. Let's go to Sasha. Start and finish up. I've got to head out. I'll be back later in the week. But Sasha.
The issue is quite simple. Biden will win by default because there is no Republican Party. It's a party of the criminal, led by his puppies like Johnson and, but actually all of them, because you see, at this time, maybe in 4 years it will be a different situation. Maybe Republicans will be able to rebuild a party finally. But today it's a party of a criminal, and they're all scared of him like to death. I don't know. I think they're scared that he will just come into their house and will start whip them in front of their wives and children and so on. And they're scared of that so much that they agree with everything what he's talking about, and they're scared even that if they will not support him enough, the other Republicans will denounce him and talk on him to Trump, and Trump will, with a vengeance, he will just tear their heart apart and their brains if they have.
Trump will be in prison.
No.
Well, listen,
No,
guys, I'm going to
Right.
hand it off to Mark. It's sure good to see everybody. Have a great week. I'm going to be saying hi to the Star Wars exhibit in Orlando tomorrow for you guys. I'm off for the whole week down here in Orlando and just getting the pulse. But in the land of Ron DeSantis.
You're
Or
in the
as
land of
Trump
Ron
says,
DeSantis, and you're in the land
Ron-
where they've got all kinds of interesting things going
Right.
on, including
Well-
what they will or won't ban, and all along those lines. And we talked about that on World Edition earlier, and all in that space. But one of the things I heard, Sasha, and I don't know your take on this, but one of the things that Trump has said he will do is he said that if he is elected, he will literally pardon everybody that is in jail right now for the January 6th riot. So he made that statement, and he made it recently that he will, one of his first acts would be to pardon all of those on the January 6th riot. And like I said earlier, this kind of far right politics is across the board, because I do not know Mr. Geert Wilder, but apparently he said he wanted to end immigration to the Netherlands from Muslim countries, wanted to tax headscarves, and he wanted to literally ban the Quran. So definitely he was saying that he wanted to get rid of all of these things. So I think that there's definitely some extremist politics that is going on around the world.
So I believe most Americans don't want to remember, like before Trump, when we didn't have to look at the news every day to see what crazy crap had happened, that we could just like ignore it for weeks at a time. Most Americans want normality. Biden is the most normal of politicians. He's been in politics for 47 years, national politics. Before that, he was on the city council. And technology, as Sasha will tell you, is transforming the world. We want normal, sane government, even if it's not super effective or perfect, to be in place while technology changes the world and we are able to be a center of technology. If we're a crazy country with xenophobic politics where we're kicking foreigners out, that's a bad environment to do technological business. So I hope and believe that Biden will get reelected.
Well, speaking of that, I can let you know something that I just learned recently, because you heard me earlier talking about the technology of what was going on with Saudi Arabia and that fresh AI. But I was also talking to one of my coworkers at one of my other jobs that does work in the education space. And I was like trying to figure out what the third voice that I heard was, because there were three voices that we were hearing in our training. And I recognized one of the voices as a gentleman that I knew, and I recognized the other as a lady that I'm pretty sure that I know her as well. And when I was talking to one of my coworkers, they were like, no, Mark, that third voice was actually AI, because I was saying how it did not sound that good and everything. And that's part of the reason it was sounding very mechanical. So that's one of the things that I observed, was how it did not come up to the nature that it will probably come to later and everything.
Right now, AI is stupid. AI is not very creative. AI takes the combined thoughts behind all the data that's pumped into AI and just repeats those back at you. So AI, AI can be racist if racists input data. Like the AI they have an AI system for approving mortgages that turned out to be racist because the data that went in reflected a racist bias in who gets mortgages. They had an AI chatbot that became a sexual harasser because so many creepy guys were chatting with the AI that the creepiness rubbed off on the AI. And so right now, AI is not original. If you ask AI to tell you some thoughts, those thoughts are just going to be human thoughts, kind of averaged out and spit back at you. Eventually, AI
will.
That,
but AI is not, Rick, AI is not that good, because I've actually been playing around a little bit with some AI myself and everything. But one of the AI characters that I've been talking to is actually in Spanish. So they always give me the answer in Spanish, and I do not speak Spanish. So I literally have to tell the AI to translate, because it's thinking that I must be Spanish, even though I have told it several times I'm not Spanish, don't speak Spanish, do not know the language. So oftentimes my answer is translate, and it does do a decent job of trying to translate the message and everything. I'm hoping Nick will join us back again, because one of the things that is going on in politics, and it's been going on for years, and I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this again, is this notion that we're supposed to have a separation of church and state. I mean, like I've said before, a number of these candidates are running on a religious basis and everything, but there is a university in Virginia, just up the road from us, that was notorious for being both a kingmaker in terms of politics, as well as being very much involved in the political landscape. but they're about to change their tune because Liberty University, and many people know that Liberty University was where Jerry Falwell came out of, and all along those lines. But since the early days of that school, two things were a staple of that school: their student honor code and the politics, because they're definitely known for being a political school, and in a lot of ways a right-wing political school. But under their current president, Dante Costin, both of these things will change. So he's saying we are an academic institution, but as an academic institution, we have a storied past, and we've always been a place where cultural impact happens. And so the way I describe that politics now, I'm a retired Air Force general officer. And so one of the unwritten rules of the large majority of general officers retired is we don't endorse political candidates one way or the other. It's just part of the unwritten code. So definitely, they're known as a Christian school, but apparently, and they were known for endorsing candidates, but apparently they are backing out of that, because he even said principles are enacted by policies, and policies that come to the forefront through politics. And so we will be focused on people and principles and policies, and we'll encourage people to vote their conscience in a way that they can, in fact, elect the people who would enact the principles and policies that they think are best for the country. So
good
it
for
looks like
them.
that particular school that was known for being
Nonprofit organizations are not supposed to be endorse political, particularly churches are not supposed to endorse, but nobody enforces that rule. And a lot of like evangelical churches, tell their people to vote for Trump, which is ridiculous because Trump is as unchristian as you can get.
Any church that would tell you how to individually make a choice for yourself, and I know it's all about unifying your resolutions and stuff, I think is taking away your right to freedom. But hear me out on this. Our country was founded on the freedom of religion, but the only way to have freedom of each person's religion is to have freedom from religion in our politics. And we were supposed to have separated church from state, but nobody ever has. Everyone always pushes their own personal religious idealisms and theologies. I've yet to meet anyone who hasn't, maybe a judge or two, but I think that's the only way we can, is to remove all religious bylaws and laws from our laws. Use your conscious mind and good moral ethics. That's, what is it that David tried to get us to think about? The theories of, I forget what it was. Common sense. You go. Common sense.
Jerry Falwell Jr. is a pretty interesting guy. Actually pretty likable in his foibles. He said that he never wanted really to take over the lordly mantle of his father. And so he kind of just went his own way and had barely had a pretense of being, well behaved. He drank a lot. His wife had an affair with their pool boy. He liked to watch. And
wait a minute, Rick, that broke the Liberty Ways, because apparently, according to their student honor code, the Liberty Way prohibits premarital sex and any kind of romantic relationship between members of the same sex. It also bans alcohol, nicotine, tobacco, and marijuana. So it gives guidelines for entertainment, movies, video games, or music with lewd lyrics, and anti-Christian marriage or sexual content are not allowed. So it sounds like he broke a lot of those rules.
Well, he felt oppressed by those rules. He didn't, he was in the family business. He didn't particularly like the family business. But Christian colleges have all sorts of rules. Like if a guy and a girl are in a dorm room together, door has to be open. There has to be a third person. Everybody they can't be sitting on the same bed. Everybody has to keep 1 foot on the floor. A zillion rules.
Speaking of a zillion rules,
that's a pretty fun, what I mean, like 1 foot on the floor. I mean, come on, that's going to be getting kind of crazy in those rooms, to kind of get around.
Speaking of crazy in those rooms, because we do know that sometimes people come from all kinds of backgrounds that decide to run for politics. There is a player, I actually admire him as an NBA player, but apparently as of today, that Stephen Curry, who is the star of the Golden State Warriors, has suggested that he'll enter politics after the NBA. So he says, is politics is a way that you can create meaningful change, he'd be interested. And I know that definitely Barkley and others have gone in or into politics or thought about going into politics. But definitely he said that he would be possibly looking at that, because he said that he wants to leverage every part of his influence for good, though he backtracked slightly, saying he is still a maybe to the presidency, and it wouldn't be as soon as 2028. So
good
maybe
for
he's thinking
him.
about running in 2032.
Good for that. We should change politics to make it more attractive for people from all walks of life to get in. Right now, just being a congressperson, you have to do so much fundraising and so much ass kicking to a lunatic party, especially if you're a Republican, that it doesn't attract the best people.
You know,
Well,
I
speaking of not attracting
want to add something to that. In this day and time, with the technology that we have, we shouldn't have to spend so much money in our campaigning as much as we start utilizing the technology and allow real people, real minds, real consciousness to make the effort to get into office, as opposed to people with all the money. And I think that's what needs to change. I think we need to change the way the campaigns are ran. And I think we need to change how much money people are allowed to raise for a campaign, and maybe just say everyone gets equal time on wherever, but to stop sending them out and campaigning.
You can't do that until the Supreme Court changes, because the Supreme Court with Citizens United in 2010 said money equals speech. That saying you can't throw money at a campaign is like censorship. And that
But
same ruling.
the second richest person in the world, he got dethroned. He used to be the richest person, but the second richest person in the world had a meeting. So this is my question for Sasha. He had a meeting with the one of the candidates we were just talking about, and a lot of people are saying that if he puts his money behind him, he could help throw the election. But I just wondered your thoughts around Elon Musk and him being President or former President Trump's newest best friend, because apparently they have had meetings, even though now Jeff Bezos has overthrown Elon Musk as the richest and everything. But just wondering your thoughts about Elon Musk being a major donor and a major supporter of former President Trump, since that is something that I've been hearing in the news, that they met and apparently he might be getting ready to throw some of that money toward Trump's ways.
Okay, they met recently. Nobody knows what they discuss, and I don't think one should care about it, because he's got his money from Russia anyway, and he will need to get even much more money, 5 times as much, in the next less than 2 weeks. So Elon Musk, look, Elon Musk is in it for himself. If he sees something that he could relate to or could be beneficial to him, he'll go for it. And if not, he'll just say, Trump, sorry, my friend, you know where is your jail located, so just I can give you a ride to your jail and just stay there, okay, baby? So I really don't put a lot of stock into that meeting, because who is Trump, we all know. Elon Musk, obviously he's a strange individual, and some people believe that he's a genius, and he's done a lot of very, very, I would say, even brilliant moves, but not the Twitter acquisition, and that bleeds him, and he sold a lot of his Tesla stock, and that's one of the reasons why shares of Tesla are struggling. And I don't know what's in it in the future for Elon Musk. He depends a lot on U.S. government and contracts and so on, and we'll see which way it will all turn around.
So Elon Musk's a very smart guy, but he thinks every thought he has is brilliant. And if anybody tells him otherwise, he fires them. You know, I think the same thing about my own thoughts, but I have a wife to tell me that no, that most of what you think is not brilliant. But it's what happens when you're surrounded by, when you can get rid of anybody who disagrees with you. Like, look at Michael Jackson. You know, when somebody is Elvis, when somebody has so much power, or that nobody can tell him no, they end up descending into a mess.
Well, and I think Elon Musk, like you guys have said, he kind of did an investment poorly with Twitter, more out of attitude and, showing the world that, he supports Trump and I can be better. I think that he'll just be throwing his money away if he throws it at Trump, like you said. I think it's just going to be thrown it away.
Again,
Not
but
to go bail Trump out of jail with it. That might be better.
I don't understand his timing of purchasing Twitter, because about the same time, Trump started the Truth Social site, and they were about to go public and so on. So if that's the case, and if Trump is successful and get nomination and maybe even get elected to the president, then who needs Twitter from Elon Musk? Obviously, the Truth Social will become kind of an invaluable entity. But if Trump is no longer going to be a president and not get nomination and end up in jail, as so many people hope for, then his acquisition of Twitter become quite dubious enterprise, because the reason is that people believe he wanted to help Trump, but Trump decided to help himself through social media. So this is one move on Elon Musk that I question quite a bit.
Musk tried to get out of buying Twitter. Musk announced he was going to buy Twitter for a certain stock price. Then he thought better of it, and then Twitter took him to court saying, you made statements that you have to be legally held to, and they forced him to buy Twitter. And then he lost, in 14 months, $30 billion in market value. He became the biggest loser of money, I think, in the history of America for any one person.
Well, and I think nobody should be forced to buy anything like that. I think that was very wrong. The court.
But there were contractual obligations. He could walk away, though. I think there were clauses that he could have paid just $3 billion and just walk away from Twitter. But he's being greedy. He decided to gamble all the way, and he had to sell a lot of Tesla stock, and he had to go through enormous. And now he's losing $30 billion instead of $3 billion.
And now it made him crazier. It made him into a troll on Twitter, where he just says like trollish right-wing stuff all the time now.
I don't even pay attention to Twitter. Unfortunately, I know a few people on Twitter, and of course they're on Twitter because they're Trump and I guess Elon Musk fans. Maybe Elon's going to be his vice president. That's what's going on. He's trying his way in.
The Trump Musk. He's allowed to because he's from South Africa. I think you have to be a natural born citizen.
He has to be a naturally born citizen and everything. But yeah, so he cannot be the vice president. But maybe Trump will find some way to bend that rule. By the way, speaking of that, apparently there are some people that used to be fans of Trump, but now they're going to spend their money to make sure that he doesn't win the election. So there's a Republican group, so it's a group of Republicans that is planning to spend $50 million to stop him through a series of homemade testimonial videos of voters who backed him in past elections, but say they can no longer support him in 2024. So the group called Republican Voters Against Trump first emerged in the 2020 campaign and made a return appearance in the 2022 midterm elections. And it looks like they've got a lady that's running it, and maybe we've got to get her on it to Pod TV. So I might reach out and see if we can't find Sarah Longwell, because she's a leading figure in the Never Trump politics, whose focus groups and pollings are a staple of center-right podcasts and have made her a go-to figure for political reporters. So, hey, this particular kind of producer and everything else is going to reach out and see if we can't get her on to find out what her reasoning is, and maybe she'll even give us some of those testimonial videos and everything. But yeah, she said.
Love to see that, but can we change it from Republican voters against Trump to Republicans against Trump and call him rat? Good for them. You know what? That's the freedom of America, right? We don't have. This is what people need to start changing and saying. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm just a human, and these are the policies I want, and this is the person who can carry it through. And I think that's what's going to have to change.
Well, speaking of change, we have two people that are part of the political landscape, and apparently they want us all to tone down what we've got going on. So, two Supreme Court justices earlier today urged Americans to turn down the temperature of civil discourse, even as the High Court is working through some of the most charged political cases to land on its docket in years. So, Justice Amy Coney Barrett told an audience in Washington, D.C. during an event focused on civic education. Why should any of us want to obliterate the opposition or even see another person as the opposition? And Justice Sonia Sotomayor said that on the Supreme Court, she and her colleagues come to disagreements with an assumption that all nine are operating in good faith. I think the public discourse has lost some of that. Sotomayor lamented there's a lot of personal attacks on people's character. So the Supreme Court, these comments came as the Supreme Court is wrestling with a lot of issues, including whether Donald Trump should have appeared on the Colorado ballot and his claim of immunity from criminal prosecution and a number of other things as well. So my question to everybody on the panel is, are we kind of beholden to some of this kind of notion of civil discourse and it not being a good notion of civil discourse, and it's kind of like very toxic and everything? Because even Sotomayor noted that the president who nominates each justice remains in power for at most 8 years. So for us to be beholden to one of them is a little crazy, said Sotomayor, who was nominated by former President Barack Obama. They should give us the freedom to grow as we grow in the job as well. So
one of the nice surprises of the history of the Supreme Court is when somebody's appointed to uphold a certain political point of view, and then they turn out to not do that, to be their own person. Amy Coney Barrett, I mean, not on abortion, but on other stuff, she comes from this like fundamentalist religious background that some people have called culty, but she's shaping up to maybe be a nice surprise, to be, more reasonable, at least to a liberal, than I mean, time will tell.
But she's even agreeing with you, because she said that in this article that was in CNN, she said that life on the court does insulate us from politics. We don't sit on opposite sides of an aisle. We all wear the same color black robe. So definitely,
it's like Clarence Thomas is like a bad surprise, because he hated what happened to him in the hearings. I think he called it a lynching, maybe, I don't know, and being charged with sexual harassment, and he started his service on the court angry, and it seems like he's only gotten angrier and more, resistant. And, his wife, helped, she was part of the insurrection. And Alito is kind of a jerk. But, some of the other justices are nice surprises. Even Kavanaugh, who just got reamed in his hearings because people said he had a history of getting drunk and trying to sexually assault people. He had terrible hearings. He might be kind of more judge-like and less of a jerk than you might expect.
You should not overestimate these people on Supreme Court. They are just normal, regular people like you, like me, like Mark, or Nick, or even Kim. So don't try to overestimate it. These people, imagine that they are going to each other for birthday parties, and they're going to all kind of services together or so on. And even if they would disagree with some of the decisions, but because socially they are together and they understand that one person means nothing, but 9 judges on Supreme Court means everything. So they are together on this question and the other question, and all this, it's a show, it's a political show. Oh, these people are against and these people are for. They are all making agreements. Okay, I'll give you a little bit of here, you'll give me a little bit of there, and we'll go from here and there, and we'll work together, everything will be okay. That's all what there is to be. It's a political show. They are not elected by people of the United States. They are being appointed And after what they did in a few days, they got 9-0 decisions here, and they got 54 days, knowing that the time is of essence. It's extremely important to decide the stupid issue of Trump's absolute immunity. If there is such question, then that applies to Biden as well. So if Biden will take all 9 of them and put in jail, and he has immunity according to Trump's lawyers, then Biden has no risk. Let them find lawyers and prove that they're innocent and so on. And in 2.5 years, they will be back on the benches. In the meantime, he has to increase the Supreme Court to 15 judges and just finish with all this appointees game. That's all what he had to do.
He
Well,
can't
guess
do
what?
it unless he has huge majorities in the House and in the Senate.
Oh, really? With immunity, he can take half of the House, all Republicans, and the
But
rest.
if you're talking about Trump, yeah, Trump could do whatever he frickin' wants because Trump doesn't. But Biden, who does things by the book, like Obama got screwed by playing by the book when Mitch McConnell didn't play by the rules and wouldn't bring Merrick Garland up for a vote. But Biden, so expanding the court is the last thing he wants to do. He's a normal politician. He likes the institutions. He thinks government can keep being normal. And I'm not sure that you can increase the size of the Supreme Court without having a 60-person supermajority of Democrats in the Senate, which you're not going to get this time around.
So you say that Biden loves institutions. You see, if Trump will become a president, he will put Biden into institution and very quickly.
Yeah, and a lot of people will be put into.
Yeah, a lot of people will be put in institutions, and apparently, as of this evening, we will no longer have to be speculating, because I think that what I've heard is that after the elections that are going on today, they will both be the official candidates. So today is the day that they actually can get their required number, and that is both Trump and Biden. So I think that the campaign officially begins probably on Wednesday, because what I'm hearing is that they will both have the required numbers that they need, even though it feels like they've been campaigning for ever, even before when they were campaigning against others. But it does look like they will both have the number as of later on this
what you're saying is they'll each have a majority of the delegates available to vote at the conventions. They'll have half locked up, so there's no way anybody else can.
Yes, after today, they will both be the they will be the regular candidates for their individual parties and everything. The last thing I was going to bring up, because I sometimes bring up sports related things, I hope Nick can pop in, and maybe even Sasha may have some knowledge of it, but Senator Ted Cruz, and Ted Cruz can be an interesting person, but he is saying that there is a 50-50 chance that Congress will pass legislation that will provide antitrust protection and regulation to college athletics in the U.S. by the end of the year. And I know a lot of people have been paying attention to the NIL and a number of other things that are going on, including the way that college athletics is structured and whether that is a monopoly type business and all along those lines. But it looks like they might actually have some antitrust protection. So I didn't know whether you had any thoughts around that, Sasha, or you, Rick, as I know that both of you follow the kind of like knowledge of politics and all along those lines.
I'm not following college sport at all, only professional leagues. Whether it's
I think it's interesting that a college quarterback or some other popular athlete, 20 years old, can be making $3, $4, $5 million a year from licensing their name and image to Nike or Adidas or who, because that would have been my dream. I was always, I look at everything. When I was a kid, I desperately wanted a girlfriend all the way through college until I got married. I was bad at getting girlfriends. And so I look at it like, how great would it have been to be in college and be a millionaire? That's like that Adam Sandler movie of The Longest Yard, the beginning of that movie, where you're just a rich idiot with a ton of money and you get to do whatever you want.
I want to bring up something, a new change in law, I think that has just happened in North Carolina, which I'm still trying to look up more details on. But apparently, we have a no gambling law here. In fact, we can't even bet on the horse races, so it's really kind of been irritating unless you go to the Indian casinos. But I just learned today that they're allowing DraftKings in North Carolina.
Yeah, they came in yesterday. Sports betting is totally allowed in terms of DraftKings, FanDuel. They've been running ads for that for a while, but yes.
So I don't get why it's okay for certain organizations. I don't know who's buying their way in, but I just think it's wrong to allow some and not others. I mean, that's just, if you're going to go all the way, but don't let one organization, just because they're big and wealthy, have all the business. And I think it's very wrong. I don't think it's right. But
so there are a lot of under the table deals, so there are a lot of kickbacks and all that stuff. Don't be surprised about that, and that's a fact of life, and there is very little could be done about it. Although I agree with you that if one is allowed to provide betting, then why not all of them, provided that they have financial resources.
But then we see that same
we're
thing
not
in Florida.
even allowed to bet on the Kentucky Derby.
But
we're
it's not. But you can't bet on the
online,
Kentucky. You can't bet on the Kentucky
and-
Derby through FanDuel. That's what I'm saying. They do bet on the Kentucky Derby through FanDuel, so it's a sports betting outlet. So
But you
can bet on
can't.
the
You
Kentucky.
have to register your driver's license, and if
No,
you're
I
from
think that
North
with-
Carolina, they've always come back.
No,
and
that's
said,
that's the actual Kentucky Derby. But I'm pretty sure, and folks can correct me, that FanDuel and Bet365 allow you to bet on these various items and everything. They just but you have to do it in through the.
I'll tell you more than that.
display.
Okay, I bet on 365. Several years ago, it was an international company. I think their head office is in UK. Okay, you open an account and you bet, and everything is fine, except that they opened Bet365 Ontario. So each province now has Bet365. They wanted to protect Canadian outfits who provide some betting business.
If you're going to bet on, if you're going to bet on Biden, you probably should do it in the next few hours before he locks up the nomination, because now there's still 3-2 odds. For every $2 you put down, you get back $5 if he gets elected, which I think is a great bet. But once he locks up the nomination, those odds will drop.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Trump will log the nomination as well, so I don't know how it will affect.
And to answer your question, because I know we're winding down, but Kim, it says FanDuel offers different options to bet on horse racing depending on your state. So you can use FanDuel sportsbooks to bet on horse racing in the following
But you
states:
can't
Colorado,
gamble on
Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania. We can go up to Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming.
But
And all of
whenever
them.
I registered anything to
not
bet
so
on the
fast.
horses for the Kentucky
Not so
Derby,
fast.
they wouldn't
open
allow
account-
anyone from North Carolina
If
to
you
bet.
if you
So I'm
open
willing to bet you can't.
If you want to open your account with one of these companies, you are locked into state of, say, North Carolina. And if you are physically, and they're following through your phone, through your iPhone or whatever device, they're following exactly your location. If you're outside of your state, you are not able to do your best. And sometimes
That's what I just said, Sasha. That's what I just said. I gave you the states that you could bet on.
hold on. Sometimes what happens is that their geolocator is not working properly. And if you are located in North Carolina, you still cannot do bets because they are cannot figure out your location. Now, when I was now in Aruba, I couldn't bet at all. I'm outside of Ontario. It was obvious through my phone, so I couldn't make any bets. And before, when it wasn't the Ontario outfit, when it was an international company, I could do my bets regardless where I am. So it's not great service, and they have a lot of software issues. And very often I have to recharge and reopen the application and close the applications and reopen again. They have a lot of glitches. Okay, but
Yeah, a lot of glitches. Well, as we get ready to get out of here, because I know it's wrapping up, I was just going to say that apparently Congress became a major ally to somebody that Theodore Roosevelt would love, because if I remember correctly, that was the president that was into horses and all along those lines. So advocates for the some 200 wild horses roaming North Dakota's Theodore Roosevelt National Park are hoping a signal of support from Congress will prevent the removal of their beloved animal. So maybe they're not going to remove the animal because they've now got the support of Congress, or at least they're hoping that they have the support of Congress. So apparently even the animals are playing into politics as well. So sometimes there are political things that are going on that are either for the good of the animals or for the bad of the animals. But I guess those animals that are running horses in that area will be glad that they got a break and all in that space if they get that break. But we'll be talking about World Edition on some more news items. I think we've got a guest possibly coming in. I've got to remember who they are, and then we'll be back with World Politics on Thursday. So I hope that I'll be seeing both Sasha and Rick tomorrow morning, and we'll have some more great conversations, including finding out about this money that apparently is coming to Ukraine. So that is some good news that I also saw coming down, that the Pentagon is getting ready to release some more money that is coming toward Ukraine. So that should be some positive news for the folks that are fighting for their freedom there in Ukraine, Sasha. So hopefully that will be some good money coming your way. But right now we're going to get out of here. We can talk about that on tomorrow.
And also, don't forget, tomorrow I have a financial show at 1 o'clock, and we'll have a lot of talk about NVIDIA. Mark, you're welcome to join the show. Looking forward to see you at 1 o'clock.
Sounds good. Looking forward to seeing you a couple of times on tomorrow. But you have a great evening, because it's still sunlight here in North Carolina. It's still sunlight where you are as well.
Yep.
But in some other parts of the world, it's darker and everything. But you have a great day, and I'll catch you in the morning.
Bye-bye.